Hello, friends, and welcome to class. Tonight's class, Next Level Tarot Skills. We're going to be talking about tarot skills, what they are, how to get them, which skills you want to develop, who has the skills that you admire. We're going to be talking about all of these things. Oh my goodness, Neil Quatrano. So happy to see you. I hope you're doing really, really well. Glad you're here. We are right now live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and I believe Facebook and TikTok as well. If you are seeing me live, but I'm not responding to you, it's because I'm not seeing your chat. Come on over to YouTube. But we're doing the best that we can, and I see on Instagram a new leaf is there. Good to see you. All right. So good to see all of you. And of course, a big shout out to the members and the moderators on YouTube. We are going right on over to CardCam to get started with our class for today. And we're going to start with me asking you a question. And I'd really like you to think about this and ring in on it. The question is, what is the difference between skill and knowledge? Now, I'm thinking about this from a tarot perspective. What is, like, if I'm reading a tarot book and I'm studying tarot and I'm learning, I'm memorizing the cards, I'm memorizing the correspondences. If I'm doing that, am I learning a skill? Am I just acquiring knowledge? What is the difference between skill and knowledge in tarot and in life in general? I mean, I think that this is an interesting question in life in general. And as we get going here, I will let you know this is an entire class about tarot skills. And I feel like we don't talk enough about tarot skills. We talk about interpreting the cards and what they might mean. We talk about, sort of the magical aspects of tarot and how a person with no skills at all can pick up a deck and maybe do a decent reading with it, which I think is like the beautiful part of tarot because it's what got us all here, but it's also the most dangerous part because even though that's true, it is also true that without a level of skill, there is so much that you're going to miss and potentially some harm that can be done. So, and in saying all of this, I'm going to say everything I will share in this next hour is from my perspective. If you think I'm a tarot expert, then it's my expert opinion. If you don't think I'm a tarot expert, that's okay too. But again, it's just my opinion. Your mileage may vary. You may have a different opinion. And I'm interested in hearing your opinion. I'm looking forward to creating a space where we can have some conversations. So what Neil says, knowledge is something you acquire. The skill is in the actual interpretation and doing the reading. So the knowledge is learning the classic keywords. The skill is in actually applying them in the reading. Fair? Heather Roberts, good to see you. Thanks for being a member. For me, the difference is learning how to use my own intuition. Knowledge, in my opinion, is not intuition-based. So that's a very interesting thing. And I agree, but here's what I will say. If your brain works this way, and everybody's brain works differently, but if your brain works this way, I think there is a space where you can have the knowledge, like as an example, you can have a knowledge that the hermit could mean advanced education, loneliness, seeking wisdom, and patience. Those are all clear classical meanings for this card. And you might memorize all of them, but your intuition would tell you which one is most pertinent. So I think there's a way that knowledge and intuition work together for some people, depending on how your brain works. Smile Soul 20, good to see you. Thanks for being a member for more than 3 years. Thanks for being a moderator. A skill is something you learn, and knowledge is a thing that you can give the information on. It's information, right? Ben, Libra does tarot. Good to see you. Thanks for being a member for more than 3 years and a moderator. Knowledge is learned. And I think this is where I think everyone is going here. I think this is where Neil's going, where Smile Soul 20 is going. I think this is really where everyone is going. Knowledge is learned. A skill is what you develop by using that knowledge. I love that. Jeannie, definitely not a next level student, but learning anyway. And you know what? I have to tell you that as I was looking over my class description and then looking at the class that it turns out I'm going to teach, this is going to be appropriate for everyone, because I realize when we talk about tarot skills, no one gets them all in a particular order. So, it's all next level, right? And it's all beginner, and there it is. Michelle's Mystic Corner, good to see you. Thanks for being a member. You gain knowledge by learning, which hones in on your skill, which is what we want to grow and improve on. Leslie Schaefer, oh, so good to see you. For those of you, I was just looking at your card today. For those of you who happen to have Rhythm and Soul Tarot, you know that I am the 8 of Swords or the 8 of Axes. Leslie is the 2. We share a blindfold in a way. So good to see you, Leslie. I think skill in tarot is about applying techniques easily in a reading, noticing themes and patterns, recognizing how numerology or elements, not elephants, elements might interplay, directionality, etc., understanding context, and how to read in different contexts. Yes. Absolutely. I agree. All right. So now I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that was me asking you a question. And I think we've come to some real consensus here in terms of the difference between knowledge and skill. And I would argue that to really be great at tarot, whether you are doing it as a personal practice or a professional practice, to really be great at it, you're always acquiring knowledge and you're always building skills. Like, I don't think there's ever a time that any one of us, myself included, could say, that's it. I have enough tarot knowledge and I have enough tarot skills. I don't think, I think you could live to be 150 and you could still go to your grave saying, there's more that I could have learned. And I'm not saying that to put pressure on us. I'm saying that to say, A, we'll never get bored, and B, no one knows it all. And nor should we. Ben says 100% agree, always learning and experimenting. Absolutely, yes. So what comes next? These are questions I would like you to be asking yourself, and I'd actually like you to take a screenshot of this or write these questions down for your further contemplation, and maybe even to do a reading about for yourself later, because I think these are questions that as tarotists, again, whether beginner or advanced, personal practice or professional practice, however we're coming to the cards, I think these are questions we can always be asking ourselves and always be evaluating. So the questions are, what are the skills involved in tarot reading? Now, Leslie, being very psychic, has come in and answered some of those questions already, saying skills in tarot reading, applying techniques easily, noticing the themes and patterns, recognizing the numbers and the elements, looking essentially at how the cards work together and playing with context. Those are skills involved in tarot reading. I would absolutely agree. What are other skills involved in tarot reading? I think a lot of it is about, if you're reading for someone else, again, either professionally or casually, being able to say what you see. You know, you can see it and understand it clearly, but if you can't say it, and if you can't say it in a way that's going to be understood, you know, what's that going to do for you or anyone? And I'm also going to say another important one, the skill to know, first of all, the skill to know multiple techniques. Should I use a position spread? Should I use a non-position spread? Should we create a spread? Should I bring in other media? Should I bring in some oracle cards, a pendulum? The ability to know what techniques are going to work best in this particular situation and setting, and to use them effectively. And so that means having more techniques in your back pocket than you commonly use. Oh, Ben, bringing your own personal life lessons to the cards, but know when your ego bias is getting in the way. Oh my gosh. You know, that is such an interesting one. And that's one I think about a lot. Like, how often and how helpful, when is it good? Like, I think there's two ways to do this. I think you just said a mouthful, Ben. I think on one hand, I think that the key, excuse me, see, you're just going to kill me here. There's so much to think about here. My brain is exploding. I think if you can know the life lessons and not even mention that they are your lessons, but that allows you to make the reading more personal, that's a beautiful thing. I think once in a while sharing your own personal story is helpful. Sometimes it really isn't. And that whole thing about ego and bias getting in the way, this is especially true for professional readers. Because if you, hey Claire, good to see you. If you, as a professional reader, will only read for people who are like you, only read for people who vote the way you do, only read for people who like the same music you do, only read for people who are in your geographic area, whatever it is, you're missing most of your clientele. And so I think being able to let go of bias is super important in so many ways. That's beautiful. Okay, so, and this, like, we could spend a whole hour talking about what are the skills, and we will be talking about them more, believe you me. Now, next question. What tarot reading skills do you now possess? Like, this is a really interesting thing. How often do you take that inventory? How often do you look at yourself as a reader and say, okay, here's where I'm at. I know some of the cards off book. You know, I can recognize some of the cards. I can do a rudimentary 3-card spread. Or I'm completely off book. I have a good handle on all 78 cards, and I can do a 10-card spread. I mean, there are many different kinds of skills. Which ones do you possess? And if you'd like to ring in on that, go ahead. But that is really more for your own personal introspection, not just tonight, but over time, because it'll change. That's a question to ask yourself from time to time. All right. What skills do you admire in others? Like when you see a reader, either in person at a fair, or you go to a reader, or you are watching a video and you see that reader, what skills do you admire in others? For example, I admire Brenda Elizabeth's ability to always find something intuitive in anything. Like, she could read the grass, you know, you could just send her out to read the lawn and she would find a way to do it. Like, she is really good at finding symbols and feelings and ideas in any image, in anything. Nancy Hendrickson, Nancy Sage Shadow. I admire because of what she's done with Ancestral Tarot, where she has really, that's a next level thing, right? To figure out a whole way to work with the cards that maybe we haven't done before. And so in doing that, that's a next level thing. And in reading the book and learning her skills, that's a next level skill for all of us. Oh, Leslie, I love it when a reader can really get specific and pull out details that you'd never find in any tarot book. And I'll tell you what, so often, like I see that from two different perspectives. So often that's a function of use. Like I wouldn't have this meaning for this particular card, except it came up in this particular situation and spoke so poignantly. And so now I always think about that in this context, right? Like, for example, the 6 of Cups and the 8 of Cups will, for me, always be connected with my mother's illness and death. And so sometimes when those cards come up for others, I get the sense they are going through a similar thing, right? And so that goes back to what Ben was saying about our personal connections to the cards and how that might work in a reading as well. Now, I've also noticed when I teach an in-person tarot meetup, invariably there will be at least one person there who really doesn't know the cards, who's looking at them for the first time. And every single time there will be someone who says, hey, look at this in this card. That's interesting. And it'll be something that in 30 years of professional readings, I have never thought of, So that ability to point something out in a card can come from a lot of different places. Astro Ascension, good to see you over on Instagram. All right. So looking for the skills that we admire in others, the skills that we want to develop. And I will tell you, the first time I felt admiration for another tarot reader, it was Mary Kay Greer in her book jacket picture in the 1980s. It was probably Tarot for Yourself, first edition. And her picture was on the back, and it's a familiar picture. We've all seen it. But I looked at that and I was like, ooh, I want to do what she's doing, right? That was the first time I ever felt tarot admiration and using that as tarot goal setting. And it was before I even knew how to read a card, seriously. All right. What skills would you like to develop? And this is where I would like you to ring in with some goal setting, because when we say something about what we want to do or what we plan to do, it is setting an intention, and it is setting an intention. Intention, not attention, intention. It is setting an intention. And when we state that intention in a group, we support each other in those goals. So I will tell you that the skills I'm really working on right now are divination skills, but not specifically tarot skills. I am working on runes and Lenormand and working on developing those. But I would argue that by learning those systems, I will become a better tarot reader because, having worked with the same tool for more than 30 years, putting a different tool in my hand is having me look at divination completely differently and trying to figure out what is specific to tarot and what is specific to divination and how does that all work is a really interesting journey for me. So I'm pretty sure that's going to make me a better tarot reader. What are your goals? Look at where you are in your journey right now. Hey, Carolina McMahon, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Claire, very good. I would like to become more fluid and eloquent when communicating what the cards are saying. Perfect. And that's something we will talk about today because that is a really important skill. Good for you for setting that. We will support you with that goal. Astro Ascension, I also read astrology oracle cards. Perfect. Very good. let me know, what skills would you like to develop? And, when we talk about learning tarot, like there are so many tarot skills that I don't have. I can't do the deckhands. My understanding of tarot and astrology is limited. My understanding of tarot and Kabbalah is even more limited. I could always commit to doing that. But the interesting thing is that has never really called me. And I sort of feel like when we study tarot and when we study divination, it is such a wide, like no one's going to have all the skills. So if you're not called to a particular skill, I don't think you have to force yourself. I really don't. So Jenna Perkins, good to see you. I would like to work more on my intuitive skills. That's a very good one, and we can absolutely talk about that. That is important. Betty Flesher, good to see you. Thanks for being a member for more than 3 years. I like how you, Christiana, can look at a row of cards and it's like you're reading a story so easily. And a lot of that is intuition. It's letting it flow. A lot of it is function of use. Ben, I would like to be able to get real specific with my reads so I can hone in better on what the cards are telling me. I know exactly what you're talking about, because you can read a card in answer to a question and say, okay, well, you should really speak your heart. But there could be so much more here, right? There could be, you need to take a class, or you need to be clear about what you want in a relationship. Hey, Ron, thank you for subscribing. Really appreciate that. So I think that finding that specificity, there's a word, is really important, and it's hard to do, right? That's the thing. Michelle's Mystic Corner, good to see you. I want to start teaching tarot and Lenormand and get my decks finished and published. Perfect. Peggy Lou Levens, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a member for more than 3 years. Better communication and remembering the words I want to say. Yeah, that's important. Okay, Astro Ascension, my goal is to do in-person readings. Okay, so for those of you who have these sort of professional goals, like Astro Ascension and Michelle's Mystic Corner, the question there is, do you already have the skills to do that and you just need to figure out the logistics? Where am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How much am I going to charge? What is that going to look like? Or are there skills you need to develop before you can do that? That's the question. That's the question you have to ask yourself. What skills do you need? And if you feel like you've got the skills to do what you need to do, what about the logistics? That's where you move on to logistical planning. All right. Ben. Oh, Michelle's Mystic Corner. Yeah, that's a big one. I want to improve my mediumship abilities, certainly. Ben, I use multiple systems too. And yes, I think a defo has helped my tarot and vice versa. Thank you for that. Okay, let's get going. Okay, first tarot skill. Understand the basic structure of the deck. And when we talk about specifically tarot, you would be surprised at the number of people I talk to who are doing readings who don't understand that the deck structure is specific, unique, and important. So when I say understand the structure of the deck, what do I mean? Understand the two sections, major and minor. Understand that the word arcana means secrets. Major arcana, greater secrets. Minor arcana, lesser secrets. What do you take away with the fact that out of 78 cards, only 22 are major? What do you want to do with that? When we think about the structure of the deck, it teaches us something. when we look at the minor arcana, how the suits are, the structure of the suits. And this is where what Leslie was saying about the numbers and the elements, this is really where that starts to come into play. Because as soon as you understand the structure of the deck, you understand the elements and the numbers and how that works. And I would just remind you that there is an elemental association for each of the major arcana cards, as well as a numeric one. And that helps you in connecting your major and your minor. So Astro Ascension, personal trainer has you meditating. That's good. It's not going to hurt your practice, but it's also specifically not like, I will tell you, I have a pet peeve. When people suggest that absent of anything else, the way to become a better reader is to meditate more. I mean, it's not going to hurt you, and it will help you in your life, but it's not going to make you a better reader. Not unless you're doing other things too. Fairy Dust Tarot, good to see you over on Instagram. Okay, so by understanding the basic structure of the deck, we learn some things about tarot and we learn some things about life. One thing that is very important to note is that our study of tarot, and I'm going to say more than perhaps any other divination system, maybe, the study of tarot becomes the study of life itself. And as we learn the cards and we learn the structure and we learn all of this, we learn about life. It's the study of a sacred text. So the study of tarot, above and beyond how we're going to use it in a reading or how we're going to use it for magic, the study of tarot teaches us about life. And that will make you a better reader, because the more you know, the more you know. All right. To understand and interpret the cards, classic keywords and meanings, right? That's, I just threw my cards all over the place. But, you know, that is a thing. And a lot of readers don't rely on memorized keywords, and that's fine. What I am going to say is if you are going to memorize keywords, and I personally think you should, at least 5 for each card over time, and let that list grow over time. Right? The more keywords you have, the better. And when we talk about being more intuitive, start using your intuition to choose between keywords. This card could mean this, or this. What's it saying in this reading? Now, some of that is going to be context. Some of that is going to be the context of the other cards, the context of the question, or the context of the position. But even that, like, I'm going to argue that playing with context is very intuitive. What say you? When we talk about working with context in a tarot reading, and a context is what gives the reading most of its substance, I would argue. How much of context is intuition for you, and how much is logic? I want to hear from you. Is it intuition or is it logic mostly? When you're looking at context, I'm going to say for me, it's 50-50. It's both. Oh, Peggy Lou, I would like to add astrology to study. Oh, right. I see what you're saying, that when you're talking about the study of life, that astrology does what tarot does and teaches you about life as well. I would agree. Absolutely. All right. So what do you think? When you're working with context, that is how you're going to interpret a card based on how you feel about it, the question, the position, the surrounding cards. Is it more logic or is it more intuition? Astro Ascension says it's both. Claire says it seems like context takes a lot of critical thinking skills. So logic, agreed. That's there, but let your intuition be there too. Allow yourself to think about what you're feeling. Allow yourself to think about what you're feeling. And I think Astro Ascension, most people are agreeing with you. It's both. Yeah, I agree. Michelle says both. Peggy Lou says both. Heather Roberts leans heavily on logic. I like your idea of building intuition with keywords. Yes, for those of you who want to be more intuitive in your reading, that is a quick and easy way to do it. Now, I'm going to immediately muddy the waters and make it more complex by saying that the card may mean more than one thing at the same time. So if your intuition is saying, well, I think it's this and this and this, it could be. It absolutely. Oh, Ben, both. And I think context is important and asking questions to clarify. Would you say more about that, Ben? This is a really important thing, and it's going to come up in our communication section, which I think comes next. So would you say more about this, about the asking questions, defining questions, rephrasing questions? If there's more you want to say there, I would love to hear it because there's a lot there. Betty, for me, I guess I look at each card individually in a reading. I need to work more on the surrounding cards as a whole story. And you've got a StaarCon 5 ticket, as do a lot of people in this room. I'm doing a card combining workshop in the Excel Events Meeting Hall Lounge on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Join me there. Okay, Peggy Lou, I am not sure. I'm not sure your reference. It could also be mind, body, and spirit. Help me out. What are you referencing there? I'm missing it, and it sounds important. Clarification is important. Can you say more about that, Claire? What do you mean? Do you mean pulling a clarifying card, or do you mean clarifying the question to make sure we understand the question? For example, on TikTok especially, when I do live stream readings on TikTok, there are so many people asking about pregnancy. And I know a lot of people don't even want to handle those, but I will. But I always want to know, like, is it a good thing? Like, if you just say, am I pregnant? I don't want to do that reading. I want to know if pregnancy is a good thing or not a good thing, because the cards are, they may reflect either pregnant or not, but likely they're going to be either happy or sad. So, that's my clarifying question about that as an example. Okay. Astro Ascension, the card shows the scene of the situation of the question. Which card? Which card shows that? Like an 11 card spread, which card shows that? Oh, okay. Going back. Claire, asking questions like Ben suggested. Got it. Agreed. Ben, so for me, it's about clarifying the question, I guess. So they say, I want to know about my relationship with Bob, and we groan because we assume Bob is a boyfriend, but then it turns out Bob is the boss. Right. Absolutely. Let's play with that for a moment so you can see what I mean. Okay, so mythical person asking about Bob. We're just going to pull 3 non-position cards about relationship with Bob. Now, if it's the boyfriend, you might say, well, there really are sweet feelings here, but the relationship seems really up and down, and there can be some upset. But if Bob is your boss, then we're going to say, Bob feels lucky to have you and likes you, but it's really stressful at work right now. But if you tell Bob how you're feeling about the job, it'll be okay. So it's same cards, completely different interpretation, based on the nature of the relationship. Suppose Bob was your dad. Well, then we might say, you should call your dad. He may have a bad back and may not be feeling well, but he's doing okay. Right? Right? Okay. So it is okay. Yes. Okay, Ben. This is so freaking important. Oh my gosh. So it is okay to ask the sitter, that's your querent or your client, who someone is to get a bit more info. So the danger of that is you know what they're going to say, and it's 1 in 10 will say this. Well, you're the psychic, you tell me. And everyone has their own way of handling that. And that's a tarot reading skill too. That's a communication skill. What you can say is, the better I understand your question, the better I will be able to give you a fully informational and nuanced reading. You can say that. Or there have been times like when people say, I really don't want to say anything at all till the end. Fine, don't say anything at all. And I will do the full reading, an hour, without the other person talking. I do not like it. But if that's what they want, that's what they get. And in that case, I am just looking at the cards. They haven't asked a question anyway. I am just looking at the cards and, or if they've asked a question, they won't clarify it. I'm just going to say every single thing I think to say, and it always goes well when I do that. So there's all of that. Okay. Oh, Peggy Lou, logic, intuition. When you call the divine into it. Right. Body, mind, spirit. So there it is. Thank you, Peggy Lou. I knew this was going to be good. I asked, is working with context more logic or more intuition? And Peggy says, well, it's body, mind, and spirit. And think about that. The mind is logic. The body is like, what does the truth feel like? Like so often you can feel the truth resonating in your body. That's why we call it a gut reaction. To figure out where the truth feels, what the truth feels like, and where you feel it in your body. And then the idea of divinity, the spirit literally speaking to us, which is, I believe, something that happens in a reading. Spirit speaks through the cards. So let me ask you this. Is spirit speaking through the cards mediumship with tarot, or simply being guided by spirit, where you really get that sense that you're being guided to say this or that? I had a situation the other day. Someone I was reading for was going through a very difficult time, and I said, don't worry, Archangel Michael will be with you. I don't do the archangels. I don't care about angels. I didn't know that she cared about angels. I was just very spiritually led to say those words. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite angel. That's exactly what I needed. So what's that? Is that intuition? Or is that literally sort of channeling some sort of divinity? Thoughts on that when that happens? Is that a separate thing? Like we're using intuition and also a psychic thing where we are channeling spirit? Or does that all roll into intuition for you? Is that the same skill or a different skill? Oh, Astro Ascension, thanks for subscribing. Really appreciate you. Betty, you're a great psychic, definitely. Sometimes, it depends. I'll still lose my keys and have no idea where they are. So, for what it's worth. Thank you, though, Betty. So, Claire, for you, that's channeling spirit. That's something more and different. Okay. Rufaturo, good to see you over on Instagram. Okay. So, going back to this basic skill, right? Classic keywords and meanings, symbols, numbers and elements, colors, intuition. Those are some basic card skills. Now, what about techniques? Performing simple tarot spreads and divination techniques. These are important skills, and you're going to have your favorite. Y'all know I love my 11-card Celtic Cross, and I don't think I could live well without it. But you have to have other skills as well. So what are those skills? They might be small position spreads like body, mind, spirit, or 2 cards, helps and hinders. Single card answers. Should I go to the movies with Bob? Absolutely yes, and let him pay. There you go. Non-position groups of cards. Let me ask a question. Let's do that again. Should I have lunch with Bob? Probably not. No, probably not. So learning those different skills. So let me ask you, and this is a really good distinction, Peggy Lou, thanks for sharing this. Sometimes it feels channeled from spirit, and other times the card shows spirit to me. Right. I might see the Empress and say, oh, your mother in spirit is here. I might also feel Mom kicking me in the head. Right, those are 2 different things. Thank you for that. That is a really important distinction. I like that. So let's talk about these tarot techniques. Larger, small spreads, single card answers, non-position groups of cards. How do you learn to do these? Practice makes perfect. That's really what it is. Practice these things. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about that communication thing. This is something we have to talk about. Before we even talk about communicating with the querent, we have to talk about how we talk about our techniques. I have taught tarot classes with professional readers in the classes. And when I say, like, walk me through the choreography, walk me through how you do a reading, they're not able to tell me. They don't have names for their techniques. They don't say, I use a non-position spread of 6 cards and I find the story within it. They can't do that. They're like, well, if I get this card in this position, I might say this. Like, they don't have a way to discuss their practice. And I promise you, if you cannot talk about what you're doing in a clear way, you're not doing it as well as you could. I am here to tell you that. So, for your homework, I want you thinking at the very least about position spreads, small and large, about non-position spreads, about groups of cards and dialoguing with the cards, about small spreads, single card pulls, all of those different techniques, and play with them and practice them and figure out what your favorite go-to is, and make sure you have all those other ones in your back pocket. Now, as you do that, hey, Cheryl Jefferson, so good to see you. Thanks for being here. As you do that, think about how you would talk about it. If you are, say, I'm going to do a body, mind, spirit spread for Melvin, who is not here. This is obviously just a sample. Okay. Hey, Nicola, good to see you. So we're going to go body, mind, spirit. Oh, poor dude, man, not doing well. Melvin's not doing well at all. Okay. But if I'm going to talk about how I interpret this, I'm going to say in the body position, I think about their relationship with their body. I think about their physical health and how they're taking care of themselves. And in this case, there's something there that's making them sad. With mind, I think about their cognitive ability. I think about their mental and emotional well-being in this moment. And once again, I'm going to say Melvin isn't doing great. With spirit, I think about their spiritual life and their relationship to spirit and how they see spirit. And in this case, I think they're angry with spirit because they wanted spirit to be like Santa Claus and only deliver what they asked for. And spirit has clearly delivered something different than that. So when we talk about our process, we have to be able to talk about how do you perform the reading? What is your choreography? That's part of it. Because if you can't talk about it, then you don't really understand what you're doing if you don't have words for it. Now, is this where we were? No, this is where we were. Okay, now, here's the other piece. Be able to discuss and explain the energy work you use to prepare for and perform a session. And this is a place where the intuitive stuff really comes in as well. Because, and this is where the meditation matters, right? The fact that you're a meditator matters. Because before you do a reading, you need a way of creating sacred space. You need a way of grounding and connecting to spirit and invoking spirit to your space. You need a way of spiritually connecting with your client. There are a lot of ways to do this. I will sometimes hold the Ace of Swords to my throat, asking that what comes out of my mouth is truth. And if anything comes out of my mouth that is not truth, that my client not hear it, right? So there's an invocation there. There's a prayer there. The energy work of a reading is very real. It's part of the skill. We have to do it, and we have to be able to talk about it in real terms. And that is part of how to be more intuitive in a reading. If you're having a hard time with that intuition, I would say tighten up. Tighten up your creation of sacred space and your invocation. Tighten up your energy work in your preparation for the reading. And that's going to help a great deal. Let me know what thoughts you have about that. And Deb, good to see you. Okay, now, communicating what you see to your querent. And this is my complaint with just about every astrologer I've ever met, is astrologers will be like, well, you have Virgo in your 8th house, and you know what that means. Yeah, no, I don't. That's why I'm coming to see you. You have to be able to say what you see in real ways. If you're like, well, the first position is who you are at this current time, and you have the 2 of Wands here, and it's reversed, they're not going to know what that means. They're not going to know. You have to be able to say, this is who you are at this current time. And it's showing us that you're not having a sense of vision going forward. Perhaps you did have vision, but right now you don't. Something has changed that, and you're not seeing your way forward, right? There it is. Ben, thanks for sharing. I ask Spirit to activate my chakras, in particular crown to receive, third eye to see, throat to speak, and heart to feel. Fabulous, 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 fabulous. Let's not forget root to keep you grounded. So delicious. I love that. That is delightful. Very, very good. All right. So we have to connect with the client. And, you know, some clients do not want any chit chat at the beginning. Some clients like a little chit chat. You have to be intuitive enough to read the room to sort of see how you're going to get in there. But you have to be able to make that connection. And I think a lot about my first line, the first thing I say. I think about it as my great opening line. What is the first thing that I'm going to say to my client? I don't always read the first card first. I don't always tell them about any particular card. I just tell them what I see. I don't think we have to talk about the cards unless the client wants us to. And that's another thing. I think we have to be able to talk about the cards. But, like, for example, I might say to a client, it really feels like you have done some great work to get rid of something that has been hurting you and holding you back. This looks like healing, and it is really, really positive. I never talked about the card, and they don't need to know because they don't care unless they do, in which case I'm going to say, here we have the devil reversed. So the devil talks to us about the things we've attached to that may not help us, like addiction or a bad relationship or carrying too much body weight or mental or emotional weight. Whatever it is, you've gotten rid of it. Do you feel like you have released something that was not serving you? So to be able to talk about the cards or give the reading without talking about the cards, I think that's important. So Astro Ascension Tarot, let me ask you a question. I charge my deck with clear quartz for clarity in my practice. Do you see a difference? Does that work for you? Like, if you do and if you don't, do you see a difference? And what is that difference? How do you quantify that difference? I think that's a good practice. I think it makes a lot of sense. But I will tell you, in my own practice, I've never noticed a difference. Whether I do or don't, my readings are the same. Is it different for you? Okay, now, to be understood. I pride myself in having a pretty good vocabulary in English. Sadly, I only have one language, which is English. So if I'm reading for someone and English is not their first language, I'm going to change the way I speak to make sure. Likewise, if I'm reading for an English speaker that I feel like does not have the same vocabulary that I do, I'm going to dumb it down a little to make sure that I'm understood. Now, how do we deliver difficult information? It's always great if they've come to know if they're going to get the new job and you're like, yeah, that job looks great. But what if it's like, yeah, I'm not sure that's going to happen? How do you do that? I think it's important that it is case by case. We don't want to give our client more than our client can handle. I might say something like, look, I know this is not what you wanted to hear, but this is the way this is showing up. Of course, nothing is written in stone. You could try this and this to make it better, but here's something else that I think is good. You know, I try to find something good at the end. And I believe that we should be communicating an action plan. What do you do with this information? What are your next steps? What are the things to think about? What are the things to do? I think that's important too. So what do you think about that? This is all about how we communicate with ourselves and with others about the cards in our practice, how we communicate with our students, how we communicate with spirit in invocation, and how we communicate with our clients. Let me know your thoughts and let's move on. Now, this is where we get into those deeper, more advanced skills. The use of multiple tools in a session. Do you want to bring in some oracle cards at the beginning or at the end? Do you want to play with a pendulum? Do you want to use multiple tarot decks? What about adding runes or Lenormand to your tarot session? All of that can be a great skill, and knowing when to do it. Performing complex spreads and techniques. How many of us, hey, Spirit Connections, good to see you. How many of us are good at using a 10-card or more spread? Oh, Claire C., I just made a screenshot of the communication list because it will help me so much. Good, good, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That makes me feel so good. So you don't need that 10-plus card spread immediately, but it is something to work toward. If you don't have that already, that is something you want to work toward. Using tarot for Mediumship. That's a good one. And I have a protocol for that a lot of you know, but I'm going to share it with you really quick. You might want to write this down or just note what time it is so you can come back and get it later. Okay, you're going to pull cards about each of these things. Okay, again, we're going to do Bob, and this time Bob is dead. Bob just died. Okay, what kind of person was Bob in life? Bob was not a happy person, and he had a tenuous relationship with the truth. Now, if I were reading for his bereaved beloved, I might say he wasn't a great communicator, right? What was Bob's experience right before he passed? It was hard. He was ready to leave. He was uncomfortable. What happened as soon as Bob made it to the other side? What was Bob's experience? He was so happy to be free. He was so happy to be free. He was so happy to have control of his body. And he met up with a woman, friend or family, someone who predeceased him that he may have had a difficult relationship with in life. And so they're working that out. Now, as you're doing this, I guarantee you, spirit will start to come in and speak. You will bring in that spirit communication while you're doing this. And then finally, is there a message? The message is one of love and one to let you know that even though there's been a great deal of trauma, you can still look forward to having the options to choose love and happiness and healing. There you go. Okay? That's how you do that. Try that. I promise you, you'll get something. Now, tarot for animal communication, it's very, very similar. Very, very similar. If we're reading for Fluffy the goldfish, how's Fluffy doing? Fluffy wants you to change the tank. Fluffy does not like his tank, right? And if you do this and trust yourself with the cards, I promise you, the intuitive stuff, the psychic stuff, this channeled stuff will happen. Okay, now, what about deep dive study? Like you could do a really deep dive into tarot and astrology, like Marion Kirk has done. You can do a really deep dive into tarot and Kabbalah, like Mark Horn has done. You could do a really deep dive into the art and history of tarot, like Cheryl Smith has done. And this is a way to build your advanced skills as well. Are those things needed to be a great tarot reader? They are not. But they're a way in if you're interested. So at the end of the day, if we're talking about a deep dive study, go for what interests you most. So, my friends, that's what I got for you today. If you're watching the replay, drop a comment, leave me a question. What comments or questions do you have for me as we say goodnight? I want to thank you all so very much. We have a members only class coming up on the 30th. So members, I hope you will join us. That'll be just on YouTube and just for the members. And, oh, Caroline, you are very welcome, Caroline. Appreciate you. We are going to be making some schedule changes, especially with Thursday. I'm going to be putting a poll up on YouTube to let me know what you would appreciate and what you wouldn't as we make those changes. I am available for readings. There is a link to book right in the description. Please do reach out. I appreciate all of you. Jen Schultz, I don't even think I knew you were here. So good to see you. Everyone, thank you so much. If you happen to have a StaarCon 5 ticket, join me in the lounge on Thursday at 5. I appreciate all of you. Take really good care. Thank you so much. Be good.